The Locked On Podcast Network presents The Big 6 in 60. The 6 biggest national sports stories from the local experts of the Locked On Podcast Network. Get the real story, why it matters, what's next, who wins the big game, and more, all in 60 minutes. The Big 6 in 60 starts now with the biggest story in sports.
Alex Bregman is officially a member of the Boston Red Sox.
You are Locked On Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast.
The Boston Red Sox actually spent money. How long have we been waiting to be able to say that? John Henry just looked at Red Sox fans and said, I told you so. I can spend money on players that I think are worth it. And to the Red Sox, Alex Bregman was worth it. Now, the Red Sox did settle on a 3-year, $120 million deal for the free agent third baseman, the undoubted best remaining free agent that was available on the market. Now, he will be getting $40 million per year. So that average per year that he is getting is higher than what other teams were offering him. It's about $10 million plus more per year. So that's what he prioritized. Was obviously he wanted to make more per year, and that's what got him to Boston. He did turn down a 6-year deal for over $170 million to sign with the Red Sox. And again, like I said on the podcast a while back, I think it was about a month ago or so, I said, I bet Bregman's market is being held up because he wants to play in Boston and the Red Sox haven't yet offered anything close to what he wants. And my guess would be during the negotiation process, the Red Sox said, okay, we'll bump up your annual salary of what you're making each year for a shorter term deal for you to come to Boston. So it's totally a team friendly deal from the standpoint of how many years are on this contract. 3 years, and there's also an opt-out after each year. Bregman definitely would not opt out for that kind of money, but it allows the Red Sox to be able to be flexible when it comes to their roster and their prospects. It's already been reported that Bregman is expected to play second base for the Red Sox, so Rafael Devers will stay at third. So all the speculation of Devers moving positions obviously is not happening. He will stay at third base with Trevor Story at shortstop. So you put in Alex Bregman at second, and then Casas will be at first base. So then that takes a lot of pressure off of a guy like Christian Campbell to feel like he has to come up now and be ready to go and ready to step up now. That allows the Red Sox to continue to let him develop in AAA before he gets called up and give him some more time, because the last thing that you want to do is rush these prospects. You want to make sure you're doing it the right way with your top prospects like Roman Anthony, Christian Campbell, and Marcelo Meyer, and you make sure that they're getting the right amount of development in the minors before they come up and contribute to the major league team. So when it comes to Campbell, he likely will start the season in AAA. And then it poses a question about Vaughn Grissom. Is there really a spot on the team for him at this point? It'll be interesting to see how the Red Sox navigate that situation, because when they brought him in and they traded Chris Sale to get Grissom, the intention was for him to be the everyday second baseman. Now you have to wonder, because Alex Bregman will obviously start at second base, what does that mean for Grissom? Because of the fact that Campbell is coming up and will follow Bregman at second, you have to wonder if they will try to potentially move him in a trade, because there really isn't a spot on the roster for him at this point. I also am wondering, what's going to happen with Yoshida. Obviously, he'll still stay as the primary DH for the Red Sox because of the fact that Devers is staying at third. So the possibility of trading him seems like it's no longer a possibility unless they were to trade him for pitching or something, which would kind of be a long shot because he had struggled last year. So there are a lot of moving parts to this that still need to be figured out in terms of the infield. But if I'm Vaughn Grissom and I'm at Red Sox camp right now, I'm wondering what is going to happen with me. What is my future in a Boston Red Sox uniform going to look like? Now, with Alex Bregman, because you're only committing to a maximum of 3 years for him right now, by the time that 3 years is up, you hope that Campbell is ready to be the everyday second baseman, because that should give him plenty of time to continue his development process, so that in that time frame, when Bregman's contract is up in Boston, Campbell's well on his way to being a star second baseman for the Red Sox. Now, you then look at the fact that he can also play in the outfield. And if the Red Sox feel like he's ready to get called up before second base opens up, then you might start to think, okay, he could get some reps in the outfield, which 100% could be true, but then they still have to figure out their outfield situation, because then what do they do with a guy like Willie or Abreu? Do they try to trade him because Campbell's going to come up and they really want to get him in? So then they have him play in the outfield and they trade Abreu. You have to wonder how that situation is all going to work out. I'm sure that's something the Red Sox have already had discussions about, but Alex Bregman is here. It feels crazy to say, and he's a big boost to this Red Sox team because he brings good defense to the infield. And Alex Cora said one of the biggest things that the Red Sox needed to improve on in 2025 was the infield defense. Bregman provides a strong glove in the infield to contribute to this Red Sox team. Also, he's a veteran leader who knows how to win. He could go into that Red Sox clubhouse and say, I want to win here. And I keep referring back to Justin Turner. He was a guy who came to Boston and was huge in the locker room as being a good mentor and leader to some of the younger players. And I've preached on this podcast for so long, the Red Sox need a veteran presence in that clubhouse. They need somebody to add to their lineup who's going to be a veteran who knows how to win and can help work with the younger guys on this roster, because the Red Sox have a young roster right now. So that guy is Bregman, who has experience winning the World Series and is now in Boston and ready to help a young team and help boost them so that they can win. Also, he's very familiar with Alex Cora from their time in Houston together. And by the Red Sox bringing in Bregman, it shows that they really do value what Cora's wishes are, because Cora kept emphasizing for so long that he really wanted Bregman. He even said it as recently as the other day that he wants Bregman badly. And there was some controversy in the front office because they were split on Bregman. Some people in the front office wanted him and others did not. Alex Cora made it very, very clear that he did and that he was a big Bregman guy. So to me, this shows that they value Alex Cora's wishes and what he wants for this Red Sox team. And that's massive from a front office standpoint. But overall, I love this move. His numbers also at Fenway are also very, very good. He has a huge track record of success in Boston. His stat line overall at Fenway Park in his career is a batting average of 375, a 490 on base percentage, and a 750 slugging. I mean, this guy crushes baseballs at Fenway Park, and he's a very big pull hitter, which will work in his favor because of the left field green monster wall that is 7 feet 2 inches high. So for his hitting style, that is really favorable. And his numbers at Fenway were similar to what David Ortiz's were. I mean, we're talking serious numbers here. And even if you just think about it, if you think about his time with the Houston Astros, he always came into Boston and mashed. And he was one of the biggest Red Sox killers at Fenway Park in his career. So that's incredibly promising for what he can provide on the offensive side of the ball. He's also a right-handed bat, so it provides versatility because since the Red Sox lost Tyler O'Neill, they really needed to replace his productivity in the lineup. And Alex Bregman might not be the guy who goes and crushes 40 home runs for you, but he can hit a decent amount of home runs, but he can also drive in runs at a consistent basis, and he's a smart hitter because he's a veteran. And you look at somebody like Cedar Rafaela, who still has a ways to go in terms of his development at the plate. He can try to model his game after a guy like Bregman when it comes to being patient at the plate and actually taking strikes and taking balls and just being patient and finding your pitch, whereas Rafaela is super swing happy and it tends to backfire on him sometimes. So that's another benefit to Alex Bregman being here. There are so many reasons why I love this for the Red Sox, and it really sends a message to the fans that the front office is back in it, because for the last few years, we truly felt like John Henry and company lost interest in the Boston Red Sox, did not care about improving them, and they were so focused on the other teams. They were so focused on either other sports teams that they had purchased or even the lower levels of the farm system and trying to grow that, which again, there's nothing wrong. You want to have good prospects in your system. So there's nothing wrong with wanting to improve that, but they weren't finding that balance of improving their farm system and the major league roster. And now they've said, look, we are tired of finishing at either mediocre or worse than that pace. We want to finish hopefully first in our division. And this is a big statement move by Fenway Sports Group. This is a big statement move for ownership that, look, we're willing to spend money on the right players, and it gets the fans back invested. Alex Bregman is a big named player, an exciting player, a move that the Red Sox needed to make in order to make a statement to the fans and show that they are invested in this Boston Red Sox team. And on paper, if this Red Sox team can stay healthy now, I truly believe they can win their division. If you take Bregman out of the equation, I would have said, look, they probably can be a wild card team, but they are still missing a couple key pieces here to the puzzle to make them a true contender. They are a true contender now. That is what Bregman brings to the table. He is a guy who can go out there and produce. Have his numbers offensively declined in the last couple seasons? Yes, but he still has productive seasons at the plate, and he can still put together some really impressive at-bats. And if you incorporate what he's been able to do at Fenway Park, you really can't be upset about this move as a Red Sox fan. And it also will attract more free agents. Now that Alex Bregman showed that he wanted to come to Boston and he turned down more years to go elsewhere and come play in Boston instead, it really shows that he wanted Boston. And if I'm a free agent who's going on the market next year, I'm looking at that and saying, look, I want to come to Boston too. Take example, Vlad Guerrero Jr., who's going to be a free agent next year. And the Blue Jays, who haven't had a lot of luck with players this offseason in general, might not have a lot of luck extending him. And if they don't extend him and he goes to free agency, the Red Sox could be a target for him because he could look at them and say, wow, the Red Sox obviously do want to spend money when it matters and on players who they feel are worth it. So if they feel like I'm worth it, they'll give me that nice payday. So there are so many reasons why this is such a good move for the Red Sox, but it can be capped off with saying it fills a huge need in that last hole in the lineup to really help us feel like the Red Sox lineup is now complete. So I'm really excited about this move. I just think Bregman provides so many positive aspects that he can bring to Fenway Park and the Boston Red Sox, and his attitude should help fuel the Red Sox to a lot of success.
I love going to live events, whether it's sports, music, theater, or comedy. Imagine going to the big game this Sunday. That's what a lot of the people around me here on Radio Row are going to do, and the fans who are coming to New Orleans. Gametime has a new feature called Gametime Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Gametime Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have time searching. Inspiration makes it easier to save more on sports, concerts, comedy, theater, and take the work on tickets. Gametime. Download Gametime app, create an account, and use promo code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? Gametime.
I think it's safe to say that Jamal Murray is not washed.
You are Locked On Nuggets, your daily Denver Nuggets podcast.
So in the 90s, Jordan comes back from missing from the thing. He comes back mid-season from his deep love of baseball. And when he comes back, he plays in the Garden. And he drops 55 on the Knicks in I think it was his second or third game back. Jeez. And Spike does a commercial. They do an Air Jordan commercial, and it's Spike Lee. And he's like him being like, gave my Knicks a double nickel. And so, that's where that comes from. Jamal Murray dropped a double nickel on the Portland Trailblazers 2 nights after being ejected. Man, the Canadian grit between these guys is absolutely amazing. Delano Banton talked that talk the other night, and Jamal Murray walked that walk tonight. As Murray goes, 55 points on 20 of 36. 55 on 36 shots with only 9 free throws. 7 of 15 from 3. 5 dimes, 2 steals, and a plus 26.
In a game they won by 11, Matt. Yeah. He was so clearly the difference tonight. And obviously that's the that's the lead in. That's the understatement of the year for a double nickel game, but he was unbelievable. And I couldn't believe how many times the Blazers decided to go under screens. The Blazers decided to double off of Murray. The Blazers decided, you know what? You know the guy that we tried to rile up and trash talk to in the previous game? We're going to leave him alone. We're going to see if he can beat us. And boy, did he he went off, man. It was awesome to watch. And it's just such a great reminder that he's still got this in the bag. And like, that is a crazy, crazy number. 55 points. Like, the vast majority of players do not ever score that in their entire NBA career. I don't know how many players have ever scored 55 in their careers before. And now he's done it. It's second time in his career that he's gone for 50 in the regular season. I think it's a fourth time in his NBA career that he's gone for 50 regular season and playoffs. When it rains, it pours with him. Blue Arrow, he came to play.
Him doing this on a night that I had to miss because my son had high school registration. I'm pretty like now forever. I'm going to have to be like, oh, so where were you when Jamal had his career high? And I went in the building and he does it 2 nights after some person on this podcast said that they were no longer residents of the island.
Did we do a show yesterday? Like, was that, did that air?
No.
I don't remember that actually. Like, that was
surely not.
Surely
not.
No, the funny thing is, man, is like we joke about the no jinx thing, right? We joke about it.
Mm-hmm.
Every time I give a take, every time I make a statement, every time I declare a position, the opposite is declared true. So if you're a Nuggets fan and you've noted that I am going to shave an eyebrow slit into my eyebrow when they go 40 over 20, like, it's going to happen. I already said that it's not going to happen, therefore it will. So, like, this is just how it goes, man. I don't know this stupid cosmic reality that I am in, where I'm being like pinned up against a wall.
The protagonist of reality. By the way, DVR Sports and Jake Shapiro are both hanging out in the comments.
What's up, guys? Happy All-Star break.
All right. So when I was watching, the most impressive thing to me was that Jamal was able to get them. So the burst has been the thing that's been missing, right? Like, he's just got no burst. We said that over and over again. Like, he just can't shake anybody. He can't get loose. And what we've seen, and like, I've seen little bits and pieces of this because I've literally watched, I think I've watched 1,000 Nuggets half-court possessions this week for doing clip work.
You've been going off.
And like, in that you pick up some, and that's not to like brag, like that's the job. Like,
yeah.
But one of the things that's been notable is I'll be like, man, Jamal does have like a little bit of shake in these recent games. You look at the beginning of the season and you look now at how he was scoring and you're like, there's a jump there. But the biggest thing for me is that tonight he was able to get them. You mentioned them going under the screen, and every time they did that, he did fire the 3 and was able to knock it down. But then they started going over and he put him in jail. And I haven't seen Jamal get this loose by putting his defender in jail. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, when you're coming over off a pick and roll, or even you just blow by the guy, and you're able to get them behind you on your hip, when you slow down and they're bumped up against you, you get to control. Now you're in control of their momentum.
Yeah.
Like you get to control. They can't just like chase down and block you because they're trying to stop, start, and then go again. And Jamal was able to get such great separation because there was one sequence, he comes around the screen, puts the guy in jail, and then jumps to the left and pops the midi. And I was like, okay, I have not seen that in a minute. Like, it's been a minute since I saw Jamal Murray pull that kind of move out. Absolutely phenomenal. He steals the inbound pass.
Yeah. Like, the
he
dude's playing so hard right now, Matt. Like, that's the thing that people don't fully realize. He cares so much about this right now, and him being able to do this on the last game before the All-Star break, that just shows the level of competitiveness that he has and why it was so freaking stupid for them to decide, you know what, we're gonna go at you. We're gonna talk. We're gonna do this thing. And they awoke something in him. It was crazy.
What did Malone have to say after the game about it?
I mean, the standard stuff of actually the most important thing that he said was anytime that a player has this kind of game, you're just so happy for him. You just care so much. And you know, he and Jamal have been tied together at the hip for basically their entire tenures here in Denver.
Mhm.
Jamal came a year after he did, but ever since Jamal got into this building, Malone's been a fan of his. Malone has really backed him up on consistent times because they're wired the same way. They both hate to lose. They're both extremely competitive. And Jamal, people don't remember this, when he played 82 games in the regular season in his rookie year with a sports hernia. It's that kind of stuff that Malone remembers. It's the stuff, the development along the way, the willingness to give your all, how he's fighting through the knee injury nonstop. Malone loves to see that work pay off and to see these moments pay off for him. And he cares about it so much. It's really cool to watch that kind of pay off over the course of these past couple months. Jamal has really turned a corner here. And Malone also made sure to note that this season, kind of two different seasons, before December 8th and after December 8th, when they lost to the Washington Wizards. And I think that that's pretty notable. Went 11-10 into that game. And he mentioned Jamal's numbers after that moment. Elite.
I mean, I like to think that we sparked them because we called them out so much on that show.
That show was my favorite show to do on this podcast, because it was true. It was true in that moment. And that team was a different team than they are right now. They have evolved and gotten better. And they can be both squads. But it was very fascinating to see how much emphasis he put on that particular game and how much emphasis he's put on Jamal becoming better over the course of the season. I think everybody can see it clearly as day. He's just more agile. He is more physically ready. He talked about how he went into the weight room. He got into the weight room a little bit more, even during the season, and has really, he's his biggest critic, takes care of his body, trying to do his best to put himself into the best position to succeed and prove a lot of people wrong. So it's really cool. And I hate that I made that show yesterday.
I love it. I'm thinking about splicing together clips of you talking about how you're no longer on the island in between the clips of him. By the way, if you get a chance, we're going to post it on the Twitter. If you get a chance to go listen to the noises that Chris Marlowe made during this game for Jamal Murray, please do so, because it was absolutely amazing. Chris Marlowe made just ridiculous noises as Jamal did this.
The Dallas Mavericks get a win against the Golden State Warriors. Let's start here slightly. The game ends. Kyrie Irving goes off for 42 points. Just an incredible night for him. And then Kyrie does the post-game interview. He's in the middle of the court, and there's just this gathering right over here in this corner. The tunnel where the Mavericks usually go in, there's this gathering, and it's a huge group. I mean, hundreds of people were standing over there. And Kyrie went to as many people as he could in the amount of time he was out there, probably 10 more minutes or something like that, and just was signing stuff. And there was a group of guys, must have been, I don't know, late 20s, early 30s, that got the hypest I've ever seen because Kyrie signed stuff for them. And they were holding each other, and they were jumping up and down. It was like their team won the Super Bowl, honestly. It was like they were Eagles fans, and their team just won the Super Bowl. They were so hyped about it. And to see Kyrie take the extra time with those fans and to see what he did in this game tonight told me one thing, that Kyrie Irving knew exactly what this city needed tonight, that he knew that this team and this city needed a win, and he knew, I'm going to put everything on the line tonight. I'm going to put everything down. 42 points, 0 assists, the Chuckers stat line from Kyrie Irving to just go out there and give them every bucket. They needed every single one of them, and I just loved the game and the performance and taking the time from Kyrie Irving tonight. Twitter banner be damned. Kyrie Irving knew what the Mavs needed tonight.
He knew. Oh, I don't buy into that at all.
There's a conspiracy that Kyrie has his Twitter banner and his profile photo are both in purple and yellow, and people are freaking out about it. And I don't buy into anything either.
I mean, I know what it is, but I'm not gonna say it on here because I don't know how with YouTube's monetization stuff does. But anyways, yeah, Kyrie Irving. I mean, he's been such a leader for this team ever since he got here, and I think we forget sometimes just because of, we traded for him. We didn't necessarily watch his ascension in the league with him on our team at least. And Luka was here and stuff. He is a basketball cultural icon. You forget about just how popular he is globally, how many people, especially Kyrie's the Hooper's Hooper. Like, how many basketball people and people who play basketball like love Kyrie Irving just because of how unbelievably skillful and talented he is. And it's a joy to have him on the team. And what he's done over the past week or so has just been phenomenal. I mean, he's stepped up. He's the low man on defense. Like,
I know he's guard Jimmy.
The team is requiring out of him right now. And just one more game for him. I don't know if he's gonna play tomorrow night or not. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if he rests. Yeah. And then a much well-deserved trip to the All-Star game this weekend. So just incredible to watch Kyrie Irving do Kyrie Irving things night in and night out.
It is. It's an honor. He had that heat check in the third quarter with 7 minutes left, 3 threes in a row, and to do it in front of Steph Curry and to do it to Steph Curry, I felt was like disrespectful in the greatest way possible. Those 3 threes that put the Mavericks up 77-62, which I found funny. But that moment was awesome from Kyrie. He had 13 points in that third quarter. You had late in the game, Kyrie had he hit the 3 free throws. Najee Marshall got an offensive rebound. Kyrie got fouled, trying to get a shooting foul. Draymond was furious with the call, but he stood in there, hit all 3 of those free throws. Mavs are up 104-102, just absolutely massive. And a minute 47 left. Najee Marshall stands over in the corner, completely turns away an open 3, which I thought was very interesting, but kind of par for the course with what the Mavs have been doing, just driving away from corner threes. And Kyrie hits one, just a fadeaway on the right wing 3 to put him up 107-104. That was massive too. Just some huge, massive plays from Kyrie in this one.
And it feels like maybe this was on the broadcast. It feels like there's like a different look in his eye lately. There's like he kind of recognizes the moment of what he has to do. And tonight, like I saw him, middle of the game, he's barking at Spencer Dinwiddie. Like he was really like on court, telling guys where to go. And I feel like we don't, maybe I'm misremembering, but it feels like we don't see that often out of him. And, he had a couple buckets where they would pan to him. And just the look that he had was just like, all right, we're not losing this game. Like we need to win badly. I will do what is required for us to win the game. And it was a big win for the team. I mean, they really needed it for the standings, for the tiebreakers, all of it. Because you're going to be in this clump more than likely, 7, 8, 9, 10 clump. And the Warriors are probably going to be in there with you. So this was a very important game. I mean, we got 30 games left. Like it is getting towards the home stretch.
It's wild. Now the Mavs are 29-26. Like you said, they have one more game against the Heat tomorrow before the All-Star break. And so, I mean, we'll see what happens with this team, but they're sitting in an okay spot, a precarious spot roster-wise with all the stuff that Isaac talked about in the show yesterday, but they are in an okay spot, at least for the time being right now. And this game was part of it. You mentioned him. You mentioned Kyrie and his going like talking to teammates and things like that. He also was going after the refs a couple times, which is just something we don't really see often from him. And I just thought that maybe that's part of the gamesmanship tonight. There was a lot of ref talk from the Warriors side of it. Obviously Draymond, but Steve Kerr got a technical during a timeout that was wild. He was going after James Williams. And at the beginning of the third quarter, Draymond had to hold him back. If Draymond has to hold you back in a situation with the refs, I don't know. I don't think you're in the right in that. Probably, I thought that was funny. But just to point out that there was a lot of frustration from the Warriors side. I'm sure Chuck and Locked On Warriors will talk about that. But Kyrie maybe met them in that moment and said, all right, well, if they're going to try to argue for fouls, we can't just be sitting here and let things happen to us. So he was starting to go after them. And then he got that foul in the closing minutes. And I don't know, maybe it was worth it.
Maybe that wasn't even the funniest working the refs moment. They easily had to go to Jason Kidd running onto the court.
Yep.
The most angry Jason Kidd has been all season long at the officials for making the right call.
What was that? Yeah. Beginning of the fourth quarter, there was a kickball, and it looked like a kickball to me on the replay and everything. Kid was furious. He runs out on the court, and they call inadvertent whistle, right? Like they switched it to inadvertent whistle. Then the Mavs got the ball because they had imminent possession, I guess. And then Max Christie got a layup, put him up 89-80.
Yeah. And I guess on the ESPN broadcast, I had people in my chat say that they said it was an 8-second violation, but I don't think that was the case at all.
Oh, interesting.
Because the Mavs broadcast never brought that up. So I don't know. Maybe it was an 8-second. I just thought that was hilarious because it was almost like the refs were like, oh, my God, Jason Kidd's this mad? Like, we must have really messed this one up.
I love going to live events, whether it's sports, music, theater, or comedy. Imagine going to the big game this Sunday. That's what a lot of the people around me here on Radio Row are going to do, and the fans who are coming to New Orleans. Gametime has a new feature called Gametime Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Gametime Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have time searching. Inspiration makes it easier to save more on sports, concerts, comedy, theater, and take the work on tickets. Gametime. Download Gametime app, create an account, and use promo code Locked On for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code Locked On for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? Gametime.
The Knicks head into the All-Star break with some insanity. They survived the highest scoring game in the NBA this season.
You are Locked On Knicks, your daily New York Knicks podcast.
The Knicks, a crazy finish game. They led by 18 points in the second quarter, 12 points in the fourth. Trae Young went off at the end of the game. The Knicks looked like they were going to blow it despite some late shot making from Jalen Brunson. And similarly crazy overtime. Jalen Brunson gets a dagger with 17 seconds left. George Niang misses at the buzzer. And in a game that was on bath salts, the Knicks come out on top. I'll say it one more time because it was crazy. 149 to 148, Alex. They head into the All-Star break. Third in the Eastern Conference, 36-18, a top 3 record they've had since Pat Riley left 30 years ago, heading into the All-Star break. Was not easy to get there, though.
Yeah, definitely not. I mean, the late game execution left a little bit to be desired. Let's just put it kindly in that way, I guess. A really bad pass from Karl Anthony Towns gets picked off. Dyson Daniels luckily only converts on 1 of 2 free throws when the Hawks were down 3. And then the Knicks, go to move the ball up the court again, and Josh Hart coughs it up, and it was just not the prettiest exchange there. He fouls Trae Young down the stretch, and that allows them to tie it, and then the Knicks can't win it with about 3 seconds left. But luckily, Jalen Brunson comes through in the overtime. I mean, he was coming through, to your point, he was coming through in the fourth quarter to begin with. I mean, this was sort of the Karl Anthony Towns show for most of it until the very end, when the Knicks just really needed Brunson to come to it. Not to say that he didn't do anything before the final few minutes or whatever and the overtime, but I mean, that was when his impact was most felt. The Knicks kind of were just like, we need buckets. We need to stay alive here. And Jalen Brunson first, the first one that kind of took my breath away was it hits a 3 right in Dyson Daniels' face. I mean, this guy is probably, I mean, look, it's not just that he's terrorizing Jalen Brunson, but this guy is probably the guy that is most terrorized him this year, I would say. I think that he is the greatest foil to Brunson, and that he's much taller than him, much longer than him, just as quick as him, and just has crazy quick hands, leading the NBA in steals, had 4 steals in this game. I mean, he's a fantastic defensive player, definitely the guy that's done the best individual job of guarding Jalen Brunson this season, I think. And yet Brunson just kind of all just with quick twitch reflexes, managed to get this 3 over him late in the game to give the Knicks, I think at the time, a 4-point lead. It looked like that was going to be all they needed. Yeah. And then obviously things fell apart down the stretch where they ended up tied up. But then later on in the overtime, brings the ball down the floor with like roughly 20 seconds on the clock. And with 11 left, just pulls up from the mid-range, just drives in, very quick stop on a dime for a mid-range shot, and freezes Daniels just far enough away from him to get a shot over his outstretched hand. Both times, just, Brunson going all the way into the bag of tricks, using his full ability to start and stop on a dime, his full ability to, use his quick twitch reflexes to, give a quick look one direction or another, just one quick little movement to freeze his defender for just enough time to get that quick release 3 off in the one in the fourth quarter. And then, stopping on a dime in the overtime to freeze Daniels there. It was just brilliant shot making down the stretch from Brunson. This is, I guess, much to the chagrin of like the one guy in our YouTube comments that keeps coming in and being like, Cat is the only real all-star and Brunson's a ball hog that's holding the team back. Well, maybe you think that, and if you do, you're foolish, because I mean, this is the reason that you have this guy on the team. This is why you're building around him. He's clutch as hell. He makes the shots that he needs to make, and he just is a fantastic ball player that can get you a bucket when you need it the most with no help at all, even against arguably the best defender in the NBA at this particular moment. So huge hats off to Jalen Brunson. I thought this was one of his best games of the season, definitely one of his signature games of the season so far.
Yeah, I mean, he's an incredible first half of the year. Like in terms of his scoring, passing efficiency, and keeping turnovers down. There was some combination of those numbers that he's now hit 2 seasons in a row that I think no one in NBA history has ever hit. His isolation numbers, which was just the aspect of this game that stood out to me, was to your point. Like, I wouldn't even say that Dyson Daniels is the ultimate Jalen Brunson stopper. I would just say that Dyson Daniels is the ultimate stopper, period. Like, kind of came out of nowhere to take that crown. Maybe you had Alex Caruso, maybe you had someone like Herb Jones, but I would say he is in a category of his own. And Jalen now, after struggling the first 2 games against the Hawks, he has won that matchup now twice in a row on the season. Jalen, he's like 7th in the NBA in total isolation points per game, but in terms of points per possession, he's been better than Shea. He's been better than Jason Tatum, just behind 2 older guys, James Harden, Kevin Durant, for the best of any of the higher volume guys in the league, also behind Zach LaVine. He's been incredible, but I thought we should go back and just say how this game was won, just because it was on bath salts. It was crazy. Like, first quarter, I thought was one of the sharper quarters the Knicks have played in some time. Like, Alex, you've been asking, like, when are we going to get back to the early season Knicks offense? And that's what it looked like. Just beautiful ball movement across the board. A lot of it was inspired by the fact that the Hawks again put Trae Young on Mikal Bridges, and the Knicks wisely, which they did not do during the NBA Cup, were bringing Trae into the action, using Mikal as a screener. Brunson over and over again was splitting, like, because Dyson Daniel would try to hover around, not give up the switch, and Trae would just be like, all right, Jalen would just be like, if you're going to be indecisive, I'm going to split it, hit Mikal. Led to some beautiful ball movement sequences, some amazing shot making from JB that I'll get into more later. 16 points in the first quarter from him. And then Karl Anthony Towns, just an extraordinary second and third quarter, 18 in the second, 15 in the third. The defense, though, I thought really fell off in the third, where it was good enough on Trae Young in the first half, and Mikal Bridges sort of let go of the rope, maybe just the accumulation of the minutes he's been playing all season, but he started getting cooked by Trae Young, who had just a crazy game. Even if he wasn't that efficient scoring wise, he finished with 38 points and 19 assists, 8 turnovers. I mean, just doing everything for Atlanta. And there was a stretch where Mikal had absolutely no shot against him. Campaign opens up the fourth with a personal 9-0 run to get the Knicks rolling, put them up by 12. And then from there was a Trae Young show. Logo threes, lob dunks, bad defense from Mikal, bad defense from Josh Hart, bad defense from Karl Anthony Towns. And then, to your point, the Knicks are up by 6 after 2 Josh Hart free throws with 18 seconds left, and they managed to self-destruct a George Niang 3. Karl Anthony Towns throws the ball away on the inbound. Maybe he was blaming Mikal Bridges. I didn't get it. You had 2 timeouts. Just take a timeout. It was a bad pass. Daniel stole it. They go 1-2 at the line, and then Towns gives up the free throw. 2 Trae Young free throws after another Kobe White moment where Josh Hart fouls him with 2 seconds left, Trae facing away from the rim, and then that led into the Brunson overtime heroic. So just a crazy, crazy basketball game. But I don't know. There's even more we could say about Brunson, or if you want to go into Cat, because he also had an amazing night offensively.
I love going to live events, whether it's sports, music, theater, or comedy. Imagine going to the big game this Sunday. That's what a lot of the people around me here on Radio Row are going to do, and the fans who are coming to New Orleans. Gametime has a new feature called Gametime Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Gametime Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have time searching. Inspiration makes it easier to save more on sports, concerts, comedy, theater, and take the work on tickets. Gametime. Download Gametime app, create an account, and use promo code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? Gametime.
It's official. Ohio State is hiring Matt Patricia.
You are Locked On Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes.
It's official. Ohio State is hiring Matt Patricia as its next defensive coordinator. And on the surface, the first time I heard this, I started to scratch my head. I started to wonder why Ryan Day would go this route when there is someone currently on staff that could fill that role. And then I thought about Matt Patricia in the NFL, what he did while he was leading the defense for the New England Patriots, his 8 years of calling plays for a defense, which is huge when you're thinking about bringing somebody in to lead the Buckeyes defense when Ohio State's trying to run it back in 2025. And I also think that year Matt Patricia took off was valuable for him as a coach. Yeah, he was with the Eagles for a little bit, but outside of that, in 2024, he wasn't coaching. He wasn't an analyst. He wasn't anything. He was just focusing on himself. And I read that he spent some time with Bill Belichick preparing and trying to dive into the college game. I didn't know that Matt Patricia was thinking about coming to college football, but it makes sense. You take a year off, you focus on yourself, you learn something new, and maybe you have to go down to a level you haven't been at since 2003 to get back to a level you want to be at. And I get why Ryan Day is going this route. A guy in Matt Patricia, when Ryan Day was in the NFL with the 49ers and with the Eagles, Matt Patricia's defenses messed up any plan that the quarterbacks had that Ryan Day was trying to lead. In 2015, Matt Patricia's defense for the Patriots held Sam Bradford to 120 passing yards and only 2 touchdowns, 58% completion percentage. In 2016, Ryan Day also went up against the New England Patriots, which were led by Matt Patricia leading the defense. Colin Kaepernick was the quarterback for the 49ers that day. He only had a little over 200 passing yards, 16 to 30 passing, 2 touchdowns, and that was all he had. And I thought about that and went into it a little bit more and thinking Ryan Day's track record of being a offensive guru, with that thought about Ryan Day being something I'm thinking about here, I went back to Ryan Day's time in the NFL and began to think about a guy or a coach that maybe Ryan Day struggled with. Matt Patricia's that guy. Ryan Day went from one coach to the other and couldn't figure it out. Now, you can look at the quarterbacks and say, well, those are the quarterbacks. They weren't that good. You can also realize there was a guy on the other side of the field that was orchestrating the defense that Ryan Day was trying to go up against. And that defense, which was led by Matt Patricia, didn't allow Ryan Day's guy that he coached do anything successful. Had a couple touchdowns here, but we even saw Patrick Mahomes in mop-up duty in the game, scoring a few touchdowns. But at the end of the day, everybody realizes that wasn't good enough, and you got destroyed. You got demolished. And that's kind of the same thing that happened back then. And I think for Ryan Day moving forward, we can all trust him. What's one thing I've been preaching about ever since Jim Knowles left was that when it comes to Ryan Day making hires, Ryan Day has knocked so many hires out that even if you don't think Matt Patricia is someone you can fully get into right now, you could fully get into Ryan Day and what Ryan Day is doing. Ryan Day really hasn't messed up hires offensively at the coordinator position, offensively or defensively. There's only been one bad hire on the defensive side of the ball as far as a coordinator, and that was Kerry Coombs in 2020 and 2021. Quickly moving to Matt Barnes after game 2 in 2021, who was the D coordinator, we believe, but didn't have the official tag, but he did turn that thing into getting a D coordinator job at Memphis at the end of the 2021 season. Outside of that, Greg Madison, Jeff Hafley in 2019 got it done. Jim Knowles, 2022 to 2024, he also got it done. So my gut is Ryan Day right now learned from his mistake early on, and he's going to knock this hire out too. Also, on the offensive side of the ball, I don't see a bad offensive hire when it comes to the coordinators. Kevin Wilson was the OC that was retained by Ryan Day when Ryan Day got promoted to head coach from 2019 to 2022. Brian Hartline in 2023 didn't call plays. Ryan Day was still hands-on with the offense, so maybe it was a co-OC thing for Brian Hartline, but I don't think he was a problem. I don't think he drastically hurt the offense. 2024, Chip Kelly and Brian Hartline with the co-OC tag. Great. Right now, it's going to be Brian Hartline and Keaton Bailey. And everything I believe and think about 2025 is that those two guys will be great for Ohio State's offense. Ryan Day messed up one hire early in his coaching career, but since then, he hasn't messed up any, and that's the only one that he's messed up when it comes to the coordinators that Ryan Day has hired at Ohio State. You can trust Ryan Day. I can trust Ryan Day. Regardless of what you think about Matt Patricia, the recruiting piece, he has guys at every position. that can recruit at a high level, that will help him figure out recruiting at Ohio State. Does he need to be doing the dirty work? Well, you got James Laurinaitis and Larry Johnson and Matt Patricia and Tim Walton. If they're going to do a lot of that dirty work that maybe he doesn't have to. Also, when it comes to the culture fit and maybe some former players not getting along with him, I don't think Ryan Day would make this hire if he thought there would be a culture problem or a personality problem with bringing Matt Patricia in. In Day we trust. That's all I'm going to say. Ryan Day has handed out a lot of promotions this offseason. One to Brian Hartline and one to Keenan Bailey and one to Billy Fessler. But that's not it. Ryan Day handed out a couple promotions on the same day that he hired Matt Patricia to be the defensive coordinator at Ohio State. One of those promotions was to secondary coach Tim Walton, who is now the co-defensive coordinator at Ohio State. And they'll also be promoting safeties coach Matt Guerrieri to passing game coordinator. Normally, that's a title that I normally hear about on the offensive side of the ball, but even with Matt Guerrieri's experience leading defenses and the way that he has made Ohio State safeties, help develop them into being some of the best in the country, that makes a whole lot of sense to having a guy at the secondary on defense that's going to be leading the passing game for Ohio State's defense of 2025. I like it. I have no problem with it. Normally, as many people, well, there's one thing I don't like, but I'll get there in a second. As far as Matt Guerrieri goes, I think his promotion is well-deserved. It's earned. It's another way to allow him to make a little bit more money. And I think Matt Guerrieri has earned it. He's earned every penny, not just from where he was before this first time at Ohio State, but where he is currently and how we all know that he understands the system Ryan Day wants. And as Ryan Day called him, he is a rising star in the sport. So he checks a lot of boxes. He is a guy that I think moving forward is going to be someone that Ryan Day is going to treat like a Keenan Bailey or a Brian Hartline. He's going to try and do everything he can to keep him there in Columbus, Ohio, because that's great. The Tim Walton piece is interesting because Tim Walton has been a defensive coordinator before at three times throughout his career. One in 2007, one in 2008, and the other was in 2013. I'm going to pull this up quickly to let you know the teams he was coordinating on the defensive side of the ball throughout his career. 2007, he was the D coordinator of the Miami Hurricanes. In 2008, he was the D coordinator for the Memphis Tigers, excuse me. And then 2013, he was the D coordinator for the St. Louis Rams. There's another reason why I think this might work. And normally I'm a person that is not a fan of co-coordinators. In 2019 for the Buckeyes defense, it worked. Outside of that, we don't see co-coordinators at all. Well, 2021 maybe, but that was such of a weird year. You couldn't roll with Kerry Coombs anymore. You kind of had to promote somebody because if you did roll with Kerry Coombs, there could have been more losses on Ohio State's schedule than they may have had more losses than they ended up with at the end of the day. On offense, last year with Chip Kelly and Brian Hartline, we know that Hartline had the co-OC tag, but Chip Kelly ran the show. And so it can work. I think it might work here because most of Tim Walton's coaching career, at least the last little bit of it, was in the National Football League. From 2009 until 2021, Tim Walton was in the National Football League. He was with the Lions, the Rams, the Giants, and the Jaguars. And yes, he was on the Jaguars when Urban Meyer was the head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars, which could be why Ryan Day said, hey, Tim Walton, come on to Ohio State. I didn't even put two and two together when Tim Walton was hired by Ryan Day to come and coach the Ohio State's corners, but that could have been a big reason why he came in. We know Tyler Bowen was on that Jaguars coaching staff when Urban Meyer was down there in Florida. So that could be why. That's another connection that a couple years ago I didn't really put together. Tim Walton's experience in the National Football League is going to help Matt Patricia transition to being the D coordinator at Ohio State. And so when you put those two things together, two guys that have spent a lot of time in the National Football League on the defensive side of the ball, Ryan Day understands the desire of Matt Patricia to work with someone to help him make this transition as smooth as it can be. Yeah, there may be some hiccups. There may be some slumps. Can't have a week one. There's no way you can have that week one. You don't want to start the season off with a loss. Not at all. So what can you do to help Matt Patricia prepare for his first game as defensive coordinator at Ohio State, while also helping someone that's been a big piece of the Buckeyes defense since he's been there, promote Tim Walton to co-DC. Move forward with that. Allow that to work. You already know you have the buy-in of the players with Tim Walton. You already know you got the buy-in of the players when you have Maguire. So the players are bought in. The players believe in them. The players are not going to go against Tim Walton and Maguire. And they might look at Matt Patricia and say, man, I heard about you in 2015 or 2018. I heard both them people were saying, I heard about X, Y, and Z, and you realize OG Walton going to let that fly right now. You can't allow that bad behavior, that bad culture to create a bad culture at Ohio State. So I get the Tim Walton thing and promoting him to co-DC because I think pairing him with Matt Patricia, two guys that have been in the NFL for a very long time, I think that can help things work. That'd be the only reason I think a co-coordinator situation would work. Even in 2024, Chip Kelly was the OC. I know there was a co-OC tag for Brian Hartline. That was all of Chip Kelly's operation.
I love going to live events, whether it's sports, music, theater, or comedy. Imagine going to the big game this Sunday. That's what a lot of the people around me here on Radio Row are going to do, and the fans who are coming to New Orleans. Gametime has a new feature called Gametime Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Gametime Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have time searching. Inspiration makes it easier to save more on sports, concerts, comedy, theater, and take the work on tickets. Gametime. Download Gametime app, create an account, and use promo code Locked On for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code Locked On for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? Gametime.
Great win for Villanova over St. John's on Wednesday night.
You are Locked On College Basketball, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
But we know that the Kyle Neptune era has not been great. The biggest win they've got, they beat UConn this year. That was a massive victory for them. But now they pick up a win, an even bigger win this year, and that comes over Rick Pitino and the Johnnies, 73-71 Villanova, a great game. We'll get to the game and the details in a second, but I actually want to start with Villanova and kind of take stock of where the Wildcats are at. Because you look at a win like this, you think, oh man, they've got that UConn win. They've stacked that. Is this putting them into bubble consideration? I mean, I guess technically everyone is. And if you're a mid-tier Big East team, you're probably going to be in some level of bubble consideration. Sure, absolutely. I would say right now, and I would say when we get to Selection Sunday, that they're going to be on the outside looking in. That's what I've got for Villanova. I think we ultimately get 4 Big East teams, the teams that are at the top right now, St. John's, Creighton, Marquette, and UConn. But the bubble, let's be honest, it's enough right now that you just never know. So if Villanova can find a way to keep winning, maybe it's there. But as I look at it right now, I just don't see it. They're 15-10 overall, 8-6 in Big East play. As I said, wins over both UConn's and St. John's. The problem right now is that UConn win is actually only a quad 2 victory right now. Now, it's barely. It'll probably flip back to a quad 1 win, particularly now that Liam McNeely's back for UConn. That's a big deal. But for the time being, this St. John's win is the only quad 1 win on Villanova's resume. They were 0-5 in quad 1 coming in. The other and bigger problem for Villanova is not their lack of quad 1 wins. It's the number of quad 3 and quad 4 losses that they have, because all of these data points make up the picture of your resume. So Villanova, 3-2 in quad 3, 6-1 in quad 4. So 2 quad 3 losses and 1 quad 4 loss. Those games can't help you at all. Literally all they can do is hurt you. And Nova has been hurt 3 times by them. That to me is why when you look at Big East teams and you're like, but wait a second, Isaac, Villanova is ahead of Xavier in the standings. Sure, but Xavier doesn't have those kind of losses. So that's why X is on the bubble. And I would say Villanova isn't. So there is that. And as I look back at Villanova, I'm curious where their non-conference strength of schedule is. I didn't actually look at that. Villanova, 327. There you go. That's all you need to know right now. That's not going to do it. That's another problem. Like, if it's close for the bubble teams, they're almost unequivocally, without fail, going to favor teams that have a stronger non-conference strength of schedule. And that's clearly not where Villanova is at. Now, did you realize, here's what's interesting. Villanova's offense, man, they're great. 4th nationally in 3-point percentage at 40.2, and they're 5th nationally in free throw percentage at 80.8%. The offense is 15th in offensive efficiency at KenPom. That's really good. The big problem in terms of gameplay, I'm not talking resume now, but what they actually do on the floor, is that Villanova is 142nd in defensive efficiency at KenPom. That's just simply not good enough. All right, let's get to the game. It was a weird game flow in Villanova's win over St. John's. Villanova and Cal Neptune, they don't care about weird. Eric Dixon, Wooga Poplar and company, they just want to win these games, and that's what they did. But first 9.5 minutes of this game, like basically the first quarter of this game, neither team led by more than 4 points. But then Nova builds a 7-point lead. Nobody scores for 2 minutes. Villanova gets a 3, leads by 10. Nobody scores for 2 minutes. And then St. John's goes on this 10-2 run over the final 3:49 to cut the lead back down to 2 at the half. It was an odd first half, but the second half really started to mimic it in a lot of ways. It was really tight for the first 7 minutes of the second half. Villanova opens up yet again a double-digit lead, an 11-point lead with 9:56 to go. And then St. John's, man, we just get that Rick Pitino pressure, and before you have blinked, they have gone on a 14-0 run to cut an 11-point deficit and turn it into a 3-point lead. It took exactly 3 minutes and 2 seconds. That is 182 seconds. I know how to do math. I'm great at it. I mean, that is crazy. And at that point, I don't know if you were watching this game in real time. For me, in real time, I was like, oh, that's it. All St. John's had to do was get back in the lead. Now they're going to come back and find a way to win this game down the stretch. But they just couldn't. They could not do it. Because then Villanova responds with their own 9-2 run. It's keyed by Eric Dixon. Had 2 threes back-to-back. He did not have a great game by his standards, but those 2 threes I thought were really key down the stretch. They go up 68-64 with 3:22 to go. And then we just kind of trade buckets back and forth. And then Simeon Wilcher, there's a great play design, gets him a 3 out on the wing. I mean, it is beautiful and pure, sets his feet, buckets. That was with 28 seconds to go. It puts St. John's up 171-70. I was like, that might be the dagger right there. Because I don't know, maybe you can find something with Dixon, but they'd been trying to isolate Dixon one-on-one a lot down the stretch. And St. John's was putting up great defense. Nobody was coming to help or cutting or screen or anything. And so I was like, I just don't know if Villanova's got anything, but they did. Tyler Perkins for 3 for the final score of the game. Simeon Wilcher misses another 3 at the buzzer, and that's that. Congrats to the Wildcats. A big time win. Maybe, at the time we said the UConn win was maybe the biggest win of the Kyle Neptune era. Given what St. John's is this year, this actually is probably the biggest win of the Kyle Neptune era. So again, or not again, I just want to say something new. I know St. John's loses this game, but I just got to tell you, it does my heart so good to see that Rick Pitino pressure back at this like high major level, man. I just loved it at Louisville. Just see them go crazy and annoy teams. Or back at Kentucky, like absolutely loved it. And I know we could watch it at Iona too, but it's just different when it's like high major athletes doing it. And so that, gosh, and as I said, it keyed that 14-0 run that St. John's had. So I know they lose the game, but it just, man, I'm reminded how happy it makes me. And so there you go with that. Also, Kaderi Richmond really is finally starting to come along really strong for St. John's. It took some time to get going, but I really feel like he's found out who he needs to be, and Rick Pitino's found out how to use him. And really good. I mean, he's just so strong. He's a dude, and it's great. What's funny, though, we haven't even talked about the leading scorers in this game, because for St. John's, it was not Kaderi Richmond. It was not RJ Lewis or Zuby Ejiofor, Simeon Wilcher, but it was Aaron Scott and his 22 points. I mean, he was raining it in from three, not very efficient, 5 of 13, but still, he was efficient from the floor in totality, 8 of 16, right at 50%. And then for Villanova, it was Wooga Poplar, 22 points on 9 of 14 shooting, 2 of 4 from three, perfect at the free throw line in 2 attempts, and 6 rebounds. That was just 2 off his Villanova high. He's had great games against St. John's both times, 22 points in both of those. And again, because part of this and why this was so important is because Eric Dixon wasn't very efficient in his shooting. 17 points, yeah, but it took him 17 shots to get there. Just 5 of 17 from the field, 3 of 10 from three, and only 4 of 7 at the free throw line. But again, they win because they as a team did enough. Quick Big East update then following this game, because remember, the top 4 have all been playing each other, and then Villanova gets this win over St. John's, which is outside that top 4. But remember that on Tuesday night, UConn knocked off Creighton. Otherwise, we'd be staring at things being really tight at the top. So right now, coming into Thursday, St. John's leads the Big East 12-2, then Creighton 11-3, Marquette 10-4, UConn tied in the loss column with Marquette, but one fewer win at 9-4. And just to know where Villanova's at, they're keeping touch in 5th place at 8-6. So Creighton, had they beaten UConn on Tuesday night, would be tied with St. John's right now, 12-2. And why would that be all the more awesome? Because those teams are playing each other this weekend, and I cannot wait. It's going to be great. I love a good regular season matchup with first place on the line, and I wish we were getting it. But that's that. So I went through of the top 4 in the Big East, St. John's, Creighton, Marquette, UConn, and looked at all 4 of their remaining schedules just to see who's got the upper hand down the stretch based on on paper, easier schedule, on paper, more difficult schedule. It's actually Creighton that I think has the easiest remaining schedule. Again, as I said, they're at St. John's this weekend, but then after that, here's the rest of Creighton's closing run versus Georgetown, versus DePaul, at Xavier. That's going to be a big time bubble game for Xavier, by the way, at Seton Hall, and then hosting Butler. You get past that St. John's, all of those are very winnable games. After Creighton, I think UConn has the second easiest of these teams, St. John's, and then I think Marquette has the toughest closing stretch of the 4 of them. Why? They host Seton Hall, then they got to go to Nova, which as we see is a difficult place. They host Providence, then they're at Georgetown, at UConn versus St. John's. So close at UConn hosting St. John's. Good luck to you, Marquette, who's been struggling lately already anyway. I think they're going to probably wind up being 4th out of these 4 teams. And potentially, depending on how Villanova does, and Xavier might fall even further.